Let's make him disappear from the public eye. And that is the case today too. Whenever somebody becomes, quote unquote, a threat for a particular political movement or any and a job or something, what do? They politely, next morning you come to the workplace, say, what happened to that person? Can't talk about him. Something happened. He's gone. Right? So that's what they did. They're like, okay, the best thing is he's not going to comply. We're going to look like fools. The best option right now is let's put him in hatta hin. Like, we'll see. Hopefully things will get better for us. But for the time being, it's better that we just, he goes away from the public eye. Keep in mind, he was a very influential person even in the palace at that time, right? It's not like he didn't have any influence. He had a very specific position within the palace. He was in the core households, right? And to be able to have access to the wife of some royalties back in the day meant that you were a really trusted confidant in the palace, right? Like it is mentioned, like for example, Harun al-Rashid, for example, in one of the stories I was reading about him. So one of the persons, he was caught, and Harun al-Rashid had requested that you should come and visit me or bring this person to me. So the person says that when I entered the palace of Harun al-Rashid, there were 37 doors that opened until I got to Harun al-Rashid. So that person, as a mockery to Harun al-Rashid, he said, Assalamu Alaikum ya Rasulullah. So mocking him that, what do you think you are? Like even Rasulullah did not have 37 doors. So the way you are pretending to be this Khalifa, you must be Rasulullah, right? So the fact that he was in that last door was an indication that, he had some influence. So they had to just, completely walk him away from there. We're good? Okay. طيب. Next, so now today, وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْن. We're going to start from that. So so the next scene switches. Now he's entering into the prison, right? Now he's entering in the prison. And with him in the prison, okay, kids, it's okay, right? So with him, وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ, with him, two young men entered with him. مَعَهُ السِّجْن فَتَيَانِ قال أحدهما, so one of them came to Yusuf alayhi salam, إني أراني أعصر خمرا. So one of them comes and says, I see that I am involved in the process of making wine. So I'm squeezing wine, i.e. I'm in the process of, أعصر خمر basically is a figurative term, i.e. I'm involved in the process of wine making. Okay. وقال الآخر, the second one said, إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا. Second one says, I saw a dream. In my dream, I saw something, which is that on top of my head, I am carrying a salla, or I'm carrying a basket that has khubz in it. أرى فوق رأسي خبزا. I carry bread on my head. تأكل الطير منه. So birds are coming. تأكل الطير منه. Birds are eating from on top of my head the bread that I carry. نبئنا بتأويله. Explain to us or inform to us the ta'wil, the intended meaning of this dream, right? The word ta'wil comes from what? We said this last time. Let's see if anybody remembers. Ta'wil comes from awwala. Good. Awwal, which is the intended meaning. What's the first part? Like, what's the ultimate purpose? What's the original intention of this dream? Ta'wil. Okay? And from there is Al Yaqub, for example. Al is also from Awwal, i.e. he was the first of the lineage of Yaqub. Like he was Yaqub, and Al Yaqub, everybody that came from that Al. أحمل فوق So he says, نبنا بتأويله إني إنا نراك من المحسنين. Indeed, we see you from those who are doers of good or who do ihsan. Yes. Repeat that question. They're two different people saw two different dreams. Okay. So when they're asking him, each one of them. So it's each one of saying نبئنا. So they're giving him that respect. بتأويله. Each one is like, tell me my dream and my dream, right? Okay. And this is so that's an interesting point, because oftentimes in the Quran, for example, even in the earlier part of Surah Yousef, we'll see that so the ikhwa, they came. وقال, one of them said, no, one of them represented the discussion that took place of all of them, i.e. all of them had agreed technically that, okay, you go ahead and talk on behalf of us, right? نبئنا بتأويله إنا نراك من المحسنين. Indeed, we see you from those who do ihsan. So over here, one of the interesting words that was used, إني أعصر خمرا. So this word عصر, عصر, comes in the Quran in various different meanings, right? In various different meanings. The main meaning of that, obviously, one is to squeeze or al-asaratu, i.e. the machine that takes out the juice. That's a very common thing. The other one is also dahr, time. And in specific, when we talk about dahr, it is basically a portion, zamanum min ad-dahri muqatta'a. I.e., so if you look at the word dahr, i.e. this is the entirety of time. And asr is a section or a sliver of the entirety of time. So when Allah says wal asr, by the qasam, by the oath, or by the time, al asr, right? I.e. by the small appointed portion that may be given to you and me, my time, my life in this world, your life. And the second meaning of it, which a lot of people may not know, is Allah is taking the oath of al-asr, i.e. the time of Prophet ﷺ on this earth. So if you read tafsir books, you'll see that they mentioned that al-asr over here, this al, is referring to the time of Rasulullah, which was the best time on earth. So Allah is taking the oath from the best time that the earth has ever seen, which is the time of Rasulullah on this earth. Make sense? Okay. So asr is time, and then other also is asr also means some form of safe haven or protection. Even you will see that in Surah Yousef, it's going to come, which is وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ. Right? That in that year they will be saved and protected. They will وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ, i.e. they'll be able to save themselves from that hunger, and there will be abundance of food over here. So the second point is إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Who are these people who see goodness in Yusuf alayhi salam? They are prisoners. They have committed crime. They're not entering a palace. So that also tells us that even it doesn't matter how bad a person is, a person may be fully involved and indulged in some form of haram or being a criminal, but they always have the ability to recognize what is good. So in Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, man, we're really bad people, but this is something's different about him. He's good. Inna naraka min al-muhsinin. We see you as a really good person. We see you as a person who's always going to choose excellence over everything. قال لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه. That he said, the food. So just wait until the food comes to you. إِلَّا نَبَّأْتُكُمَا بِتَأْوِيلِهِ. I shall tell you both, نَبَّأْتُكُمَا, I will inform both of you, بِتَأْوِيلِهِ, the interpretation of it. Interpretation of what? Interpretation of تَأْوِيلِهِ, the interpretation of it. Of what? Go, both. So, the dhamir always goes to aqrab madhkur. That's the qaida in. So the first thing that this dhamir can actually go to is بِتَأْوِيلِهِ أي تَأْوِيلَ الطَّعَامِ. And that's one qawl, that's one tafsir. The other is the ta'wil of the dream be based on the context or the siyaq of the ayah. Right? That yes, it is food, but it's more appropriate that it is actually the dream. And in both cases, the meaning is going to be, okay, بِتَأْوِيلِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتِكُمَا. Before even the food comes to you, I'll tell you what the food is. So the meaning is, wait, I will tell you before the food comes to you what the food is going to be. That's one meaning. The second is, before the food comes to you, I will tell you the meaning of the dream. Is that clear for everyone? Good. ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. This ilm and this ability of mine to be able to tell you the original intended meaning of this dream, or to be able to tell you from ilm ghaib, i.e. I've not even seen the food. This ilm is something my Allah has taught me. Allamani Rabbi. And this is the case of people whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them true knowledge. They never attribute that knowledge and the ilm that they have attained ever to themselves. They always bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was talking to somebody on the phone. I was talking to an individual on the phone, and subhanAllah, this person happens to be, in the public eye, and he's a teacher and stuff like that. But like sometimes we forget that, any knowledge that you and I have, it was actually in the first place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who allowed us to actually learn that knowledge. And this person on the phone, he said something like, I don't think there is anybody more knowledgeable than me in America. Young kid, it's okay. He recently graduated. He thinks he's on top of the world, mashallah. And so I didn't say anything. And then we were in Malaysia, and this individual was there too. He was invited for a conference. I was invited for a conference. We were there. And this individual happened to be sitting there on the table. And over there was one of the very senior Mashai. I don't want to say his name, but he was one of the senior scholars in Da'wah. He was there on the table. We're all eating food. So this person is like, you know what? I deserve more respect because of this degree of mine. Like these organizers. So he's just a young kid, like 24, like he thinks he's on top of the world. So the sheikh that was sitting there, he said to him, listen, Habibi, you can take your degree and you can replace that with your toilet paper in your office, in your homes. Because that's the only worth of your degree if you think that paper is going to make you worthy of something. And that is the case with any type of knowledge. If you have an expertise, if you have a skill, if you have an ability to do something above somebody else, we should always remember that this knowledge, ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who taught me. It's Allah's bounty and benevolence that you were able to learn. How many of you know of individuals that had very similar circumstances to you, but you have more knowledge in certain elements and they don't? And in cases, they have more knowledge than you and you don't. And you had more chances and resources to gain the knowledge, and they had less chances and less ability and resources, yet they walked away with more knowledge. So if we understand that this ilm is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then our lives becomes easy and we become less arrogant automatically with that, because we never attribute the greatness of knowledge to us. May Allah give us sincerity in that. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. I have left the way of the people that don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ كَافِرُونَ. And the reality is, these people who don't believe in Allah, they are deniers of akhirah. The word kafir comes from kafara. Kafara nara means that a person, there was a fire and he came and he took some sand or something and he covered up the fire. Okay, a kafir is a person who's also a kisan or a farmer who basically takes a seed, وَكَفَرَ الْحَبَّةَ, that he took that seed and put it in the ground and covered it with turab. Right? And another thing about kafir is كَفَرَ النِّعْمَةَ, that this person is, كُفْرَانُ النِّعْمَةِ, that there was a bounty that Allah had given you and it was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you actually got that bounty, but you covered it and you said this belongs to me and not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you removed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that equation. Okay? And from there comes a kafir who is a denier of haqq, which means that the person recognized this is the truth. The people of Quraysh recognized that Rasulullah was on the truth. The people in Medina recognized Yahud, they recognized that he is the true messenger. Kafaru bihi. They denied, they understood, but they covered that understanding, they covered that ilm, they covered that. They're like, nope, we're not going to believe in him. So he's saying that I have left the way of the people who know that there is an akhirah, who believe in an akhirah, وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ كَافِرُونَ. They say, there's no such thing as akhirah, it's okay. They leave it. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. And I followed the way of my father Ibrahim. وَإِسْحَاقَ. And my forefather Ishaq. وَيَعْقُوب. And Yaqub alayhi salam. This is the true lineage of who? Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf ibn Yaqub ibn Ishaq ibn Ibrahim. Kareem ibn Kareem ibn Kareem ibn Kareem. This is the lineage of Yusuf alayhi salam. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what? Right? The best of the lineage is the lineage of Ibrahim of Yusuf alayhi salam. He was Kareem, i.e., he was the son of the generous one, Yaqub alayhi salam. Ibn Kareemin, Ibn Kareemin. Or the son of the honorable one, an honorable one, an honorable one. By the way, you guys have to be careful about his chai. He puts, I think, additives in it that makes people addictive. I told you about the stories of people in Ramadan and how they were having addiction problems. So be careful. I'm just giving you a caveat. It is free, but it comes with strings attached. Why do you think I'm not drinking this? And he brings the non-additive one for me separately. So, you guys get the drugged up, spiked tea, and, and I get the non-spiked version. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yusuf alayhi salam responds to them. He says, وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. I follow the way of my aba, my forefathers. Ishaq wa Ibrahim wa Ishaq wa Yaqub. Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. It is not befitting for us that we do shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any form. ذَلِكَ, this way of not attributing any partners to Allah. ذَلِكَ is referring to that the way of not attributing any partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكَ, this way, this manhaj or this tariqah or this way of life, min fadlillahi alayna. It is the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon us. The second meaning of ذَلِكَ is the nubuwah, i.e. the prophethood. ذَلِكَ, i.e. this knowledge that I have and this prophethood that I have, min fadlillahi alayna wa ala nas. This knowledge and this fadl is on me and on every person. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. But majority of the people are not so grateful. Now he turns to them and he doesn't say, each one of them had committed a sin. So he didn't call them out with, prisoners. He didn't say, murderers. You guys are from this section of the prisoner. He didn't say any of that. He attributed them to himself. Ya sahibay as-sijn. Oh, my companions of the prison. Which one of us has an ability when somebody has wronged us to go to that person and say, oh, my friend, oh, my, somebody you knew, but for some odd reason they wronged you. Right? That requires deep control on our nafs and huge heart and an ability to forgive that person and turn to that person and say, Ya sahibay as-sijn. Oh my companions of the prison. You're not just prisoners, you're my companions. You are my sahib. أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Are different, arbab is the plural of Rabb. Okay? Arbabun are multiple Rabbs and gods. Khayrun, are they better? Arbabun mutafarriquna, different variety of gods. Are they better? Khayr, are they better? Amillahul wahidul qahharu. Or is it better to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one, al-qahhar, the one who is overpower or his power. He is great and overpowering over all. In every single aspect of life, in matters of creation, in this dunya, in matters of creation, numbers always equate to power. In the matter of creation, if you have more of anything, is power. But in the matters of the divine, in the matters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oneness is power. Because the minute the ultimate, the divine is divided, half the power. So singularity in divinity is the ultimate power. But in all other aspects of our lives, plurality or multiplicity is always a lot more better option than singularity. If you have one, like give any example, you'll see more off is always better. More cars. Even if they are just like simple cars, right? If you have like 25 Elantras, it's better. Not that I'm like, if you have an Elantra, don't feel offended. There's nothing wrong with Elantra, okay? Inshallah, you're good. You'll make it to Jannah in that too. Yeah, it will take, you'll get a Corolla, wow, subhanallah. You're definitely a Saudi. Yeah. In Saudi, it's just Toyota. Toyota. Siyara Toyota. Wallah, Siyara. Toyota. Allah, Siyara Toyota. Nothing else but Toyota. It was so funny. I was with Sheik Muhammad Sharif, rahimahullah. He passed away. And he landed in Dubai. I was there for something. So we got in. I picked him up. And we went to a mall, I believe. Or a restaurant. I don't remember where we went. But we went to a mall where there's a whole bunch of cars, or a restaurant. And when he got off, this was his first impressions. He got off and every car was a Nissan. In Dubai, every car is a Nissan. It's Nissan petrol, Nissan petrol, Nissan petrol, Nissan. But everything is a Nissan there. And if you come to Saudi and Jeddah and stuff, or Medina, it's all Toyota Land Cruiser everywhere. So he landed and he looked at me. He's like, I didn't ask you to bring me to a Nissan dealership. Like there were so many Nissan petrols in that parking lot. It was just crazy, right? It was just insane. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him maghfirah and rahmah. So he says, أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Is it better to have multiplicity and differing gods, or it is better to have one singular God that is overpowering over all? ما تعبدون من دونه إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان. And all that you worship, all the different names that we have, everything that you are worshipping, these are nothing but names. Asma, sammaytumuha, you gave names to them. Ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not revealed any evidence. You don't have any single authority or evidence to be able to name this idol with this name or that idol with that name. Ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. You don't have anything to name these things. Inil hukmu illa lillah. You don't have any power to name anything, but understand that all the decisions, the ultimate decision authority, inil hukmu illa lillah. It belongs to no one other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet ﷺ said that Dajjal will not come and the Sa'ah will not take place except one of the indications is Kharabu Yathrib. That notice how Prophet ﷺ changed the name of Medina and used it as Yathrib, i.e. that Medina will go back to the old ways of paganism. And even in that paganism, it will go to the lowest possibility. Kharabu Yathrib. And the opposite is going to be I'maru Bayt al-Maqdis. You will see civilizations and you will see a civilization of buildings that will start coming around Bayt al-Maqdis. إِذَنْ فَلْتَنْتَظِرِ السَّاعَةِ. If you see that, know that hour is very close. Right? And it also, the second is, you will find that the streets of Medina will be filled. The streets of Medina will be empty, and you will see animals that will roam the streets of Medina. We saw that in the COVID, when nobody was allowed to leave, and we saw all, there were videos. If you go online, you will see videos of like the wolves and all the deer and all the animals that were roaming the streets of Medina at that time, while there was that full lockdown for the two months that we went through, right? So those are all signs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us iman before, when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inil hukmu illa lillah amara alla ta'budu illa iyyah. He has commanded us that we should not worship anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. This is the true deen that has been established. This is not something new. This has been passed down from every single Nabi to you and me today, through Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But majority of the people, they do not know this. يَا صَاحِبَيِ السِّجْنِ. O my companions of the sijn. Now he gives them the dream. So notice how instead of giving them the answer, first he gives them a preamble. Says, listen, I will tell you the answer before the food comes to you. So now they know that, there must be like a time, or they must know that, something is going to happen, some ring bell is going to happen. So there must be a thing that they could look forward to, that food is coming. And in between, now that he has hooked them for that food, he took that opportunity to give da'wah before he fulfills the need of that individual. And that is the case of a Muslim. We always find ways to fulfill our obligation of da'wah. Can we convey that message? Can we pass on that message to them while also fulfilling the need they have, or being able to serve them in the way that is needed? But you'll see that evangelicals, when they are in service industry and they're trying to be either they're nurses, they'll always, oh dear Lord, Jesus, like they'll keep on dropping those things until you ask, or they'll find an opportunity to talk about that. So as Muslims, we have to come up with these creative ways to open up a conversation about Islam and what you believe in. And it doesn't have to be deep. It just has to be, here, this is what I believe in, and move on. And if we can recite some Quran to them, that is obviously the best form of da'wah. Right? That is the best form of da'wah. So he says, أَمَّا أَحَدْ يَا صَاحِبَيِ السِّجْنِ. O my companions of the prison, أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا. As for one of you. Now he doesn't tell them which one. He said, I'm going to give you two interpretations, but he left it open. أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. One of you are going to be, i.e. saved, and now you will be serving alcohol or khamr to your master. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ. And the second one, as for the other one, فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ. The bird is going to eat from their heads, i.e., you will be hanged on you'll be crucified, and as you're dying in that crucifixion, birds are going to come and peg on your head. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. The affair that you were questioning about, this has already been decreed. There's no changing. The one who is going to be freed and the one who is going to be crucified is already decreed. There's no change that's going to happen here. وَقَالَ الَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا. And he knew for sure which one is going to be saved, so he went to them. وَقَالَ الَّذِي. And he went to the one. ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ. He had absolute surety that he was going to be saved. The word ظَنَّ is an interesting word in the Arabic language, because if the word ظَنَّ is followed by inna or anna, then the meaning of the word ظَنَّ changes. And it becomes yaqeen, and it becomes certitude. But if dhanna comes alone without inna or anna, then the meaning is conjecture, which is most probable but not necessarily absolute. Is that clear? So if there is no inna or anna, then the meaning is conjecture, which is most probable, almost close to yaqeen but not definitively. But if it's used with inna preceding it, it definitely, almost all of the time in the Quran, the meaning is going to be absolute. For example, in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, I think, إِنِّي ظَنَنْتُ أَنِّي مُلَاقٍ حِسَابِيَ. I had absolute what? Yaqeen. Not I had conjecture that I was going to meet my hisab. I had absolute yaqeen that I will meet my hisab. And over here, ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا. He had full yaqeen that this person is going to be saved. اذكرني عند ربك. So he turns to this person and says, remember, when you go back to your master, Tell him a little bit about my story. اذكرني عند ربك. Yani tell him about my story. So this tells us that he had told these two people about his story. That this would happen to me, this would happen to me. And he said, and X, Y, Z. So they were aware of his story. So go and tell him about Yusuf. Remember, I was sent for prison for a limited time. I need to come out of this situation. Right? So go and remember. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانِ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ. So shaitan, he made to forget. So i.e. ansahu. Who is this who? Who forgot? Both. He forgot to say inshallah. Yusuf alayhi salam forgot ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ. Insha'Allah udhkurni inda rabbik. That's number one. So Yusuf alayhi salam forgot to mention that, inshallah, if you remember, go and tell. So number one, so he forgot. And the second is, this person also forgot, the prisoner. And shaitan made him forget. Shaitan made him forget that, there was somebody called Yusuf and stuff when he was freed. And he just became so elated with this freedom that he totally forgot that. Yeah. All that alcohol made him intoxicated. I like that. فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So he stayed in the prison for بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. Bid'a is from 3 to 10. So he stayed in the prison because of this. بِضْعَ سِنِينَ, anywhere between 3 to 10. 3 to 10 years. بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ. Okay, so last time a few of the individuals had mentioned, they came up to me and they said, hey, we came from work and this and that, and after Maghrib dinner is too late. So can you end so that we have time between Maghrib and that, so we can have dinner and then pray Maghrib, and then so we're not eating food like 8:45, 9:15, and then it becomes too late for us. So we'll try to end. We started at 7:05, so we'll try to end by 8:05, 8:10, so that some people can also have those 20 minutes if they want to grab some food and stuff before, inshallah. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ. So the king said to his people, إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعٌ عِجَافٍ. I see 7 baqarat, cows. Simanin, they're really fat cows. يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعٌ عِجَافٍ. And I see 7 weak and flimsy cows, lean ones. They are eating the big fat cows. وَسَبْعُ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ. I see 7 ears of grains that are green, and I see 7 others that are yabisat, they're dry. There's no greenery in there. Ya ayyuhal mala, O people, i.e. chieftains. Mala are the people that were the chiefs of this king, i.e. ministers today, or the modern day term, caucus, right? My main caucus, the main governing caucus of anyone. Ya ayyuhal mala aftuni bi ru'yai. Give me fatwa. Remember the word fatwa, aftuni? It comes from fitya. And fitya means what? Futuwa. Which means a fata is a young, strong man. And aftuni, or when we say aftuni or give me fatwa, which means I have a form of weakness or a deficiency in my understanding in this matter, and I want you to enable me with your knowledge and allow me to have this power in that weakness that I have. And that's what fatwa is. Fatwa delinquishes, or fatwa fills the weakness gap you have in the understanding about the particular mas'ala. That's what fatwa is. So aftuni, i.e. I'm not understanding this, I've got a weak spot here, so provide me power with your intellect and your understanding of all the dreams. Aftuni fi ru'ya in kuntum lirru'ya ta'burun. If you have the ability to do the ta'bir of ru'ya. Now, tea addicts. Tea addicts, I know. Tea addicts, You're hooking them on at a young age, man. Now, ta'burun or ta'bir of ru'ya comes from عبر يعبر, and عبر شيئا أو عبر شيئا is to cross. But why do we use the word crossing for ta'bir of ru'ya, the interpretation of ru'ya? So عبرت الجزيرة means that I'm on one island and I went from one island to another. عبرته, عبرتها جزيرة. I crossed the island. Similarly, ta'bir of ru'ya is that I am on the island of unknown about this dream and I would like to cross over to the island of knowing what this dream means. And that's where the word ta'bir of ru'ya comes from. Okay? Ta'bir. i.e. the real meaning. من المجهول إلى المعلوم. So ta'bir of ru'ya or عبر شيئا. For example, we also say عبرت عن نفسي. I expressed myself. I allowed you to know that which was hidden, majhul. It was hidden from all of you inside of me. And I made it evident, ma'loom. I made it open and expressive to all of you. Okay? Ta'bir al-ru'ya. And the reason I allude to these little subtleties is because when we read the word interpretation of the dream, that doesn't express the deeper meaning of why Allah used that word. It could be ta'wil al-ru'ya. Remember, in the other parts, ta'wil al-ru'ya was used. The original intended meaning. It's different from ta'bir of ru'ya. Ta'bir is, I have no idea what the dream actually means in the first place before I can even figure out what the original intended meaning of the dream is. I'm confused about the basic meaning of the dream. So ta'bir is for you to be able to actually understand the basics of what this dream entails, and then you can do the ta'wil of it, why Allah has intended, from what Allah has intended from this dream. Okay? And there are two different levels of understanding of ru'ya. قالوا أضغاث أحلام. So ضغث are a bunch of weeds that are collected together. The best example of that is like when there's like fall and there's a lot of wind. Sometimes you see these balls of conjured up like straw and pine stalks and everything, and then they're like rolling around. You'll see them. That is called ضغث. أضغاث أحلام. So he says, listen. They said, listen. All this is a bunch of like a little from here, a little from here, a little bit here. All of that conjured up. It has no meaning. It's meaningless. There's nothing here. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ. And we don't know these dreams. It's like literally like a daydream. We don't want to even interpret this. There is no meaning to this ضغث. This is just a bunch of conjured up, meaningless visions that you saw. قال الذي نجا منهما وادكر بعد أمة. And the one who was saved, he said, قال الذي نجا, the one who was said منهما, from the two, from the prison, وادكر بعد أمة, and he remembered after a long period of time. How long was the period? بضع سنين, 3 to 9 years, or 3 to 10 years. Okay? بعد أمة, after a long period of time. أنا أنبئكم بتأويله, I will tell you the meaning of this. فأرسلوني, just give me permission to go. I will tell you the meaning of this. All I want is give me permission. I will go. فأرسلوني, allow me to go. So the scene changes. And he comes back after 10 years in one narration and after 7 years in one narration. So after 7 years or 10 years, if anybody meets you, they were really, you stayed together for a while. And after 10 years or 15 years, if you meet someone, right? What is the first attribute they will remember about you? Right? That tells you what is your natural disposition as an individual. I'll give you a very good example. And we all change as individuals. So I met a friend of mine from my childhood. And another person in the masjid actually facilitated the surprise. I met him after almost like 30 years. No, almost 27 years. And I was in the masjid, and this person came to me and said, I have a surprise for you, Sheikh. I'm gonna, trust me. So he brings this man who stands in front of me, and he's like, Behjana, did you recognize me? And I was like, who are you? I'm like, and then eventually I recognized him. He was my friend from grade 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we spent all those grades together. Actually, grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I moved to Canada. So I said, Sanad, and he's like, yes. And he's like, do you still steal other people's lunches? Because I used to love food at that time. I was like, that's the only thing. So, but the only memory he had of me was this guy used to eat my lunch. I would love food. And it's not that I didn't have lunches. I would just like love, you know what, just give me your lunch. I'll just eat your lunch. So, but that's the memory from a childhood that he had, that this guy used to eat my lunches. Right? Not a good memory to have. Right? But again, hey man, I needed food. I needed to grow. So, but as an adult, if somebody meets you after 10 years, right? You were, let's say, 25 in university. You spent some time with somebody in high school and university, 8 years together, and then you run into them 10 years later. What's the first thing they would remember about you? Over here, he comes and he says, Yusufu ayyuhas siddiq. Yusuf, oh truthful one, we never saw you lie once. The one memory that they have about Yusuf alayhi salam was, man, Yusuf, the only thing he can say is truth, nothing else. They don't remember his generosity. They don't remember, Ya Sahiba. All the things that Allah eluded for us, they forgot all of that. The only thing he remembered is Ayyuhas Siddiq. And the dream too. Yeah. Right? And the dream interpretation too. That, whatever he said, As-Siddiq. And what they say is the words As-Siddiq is different from Sadiq. Because if it was conditional on just the dream, it would have been Yusufu ayyuhas sadiqu. That you said one truth, that I am alive today. But Siddiq was that they, time and again in their period with Yusuf alayhi salam in the prison, they could testify that every time he said something, it was true. And he said nothing other than the truth. May Allah purify our tongues from all forms of kadhib, lies, all forms of ghiba, and nothing but, sidq, permeates from our tongues, inshallah. Aftina. Same thing. Give us fatwa. Give me this power. I want to know. Give me a decision. Fi sab'i baqarat. About these 7 concerning cows that they had. Simanin. This big fat 7 cows. Ya'kuluhunna sab'un ijaf. They will be eaten by the 7 weak ones. وَسَبْعِ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ. Tell me about all of these 7 cows, fat ones being eaten by the weak ones, and then 7 ears of green crop, and then I see other 7s that have been dried, so that perhaps I may go back to people. لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. So that they may know. One of the very interesting indications over here is who had sent him? The king. So this also tells you that this person had become very acculturated with royal protocol. He did not expose that I am being sent by the king. He said, لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعْ إِلَى النَّاسِ. I may go back to people. He didn't say, I may go back to the king, I was being sang by king, man. Like, you remember you told me about the dream? Like, I'm like the king. Me and him, we sit together. Oh, more addicts. MashaAllah. Allahu Akbar. I'm telling you, man, like, we got some Imagine if you brings, Ustaz Hassan, if he brings this, addiction to your halaqat. Allahu Akbar. All your youth are going to be like wired high.
I still haven't pulled the heavy duty stuff.
Oh, Ya Allah, Gahwa. Where's the dates? Ya Allah. Ya Allah.
It's only better.
See, you know what's going to happen? 10 years later, all you're going to remember is I was talking about coffee and dates. I think that's the memory you guys are gonna have. There's something to do with food in my life. I don't know. Huh? You'll remember him more than me. Allahu Akbar. It's okay. I'll take that. I'll take that. Yeah, you were with the addict. Remember the dealer in the masjid? May Allah bless you, man.
Yes, I have a.
I'm almost done. So then you can ask the question. Let me finish this and then you can ask. Okay? لعلي أرجع إلى الناس, so that I may go back to people. وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, and perhaps they may know the meaning of this. Now, what was the meaning and how he interpreted the meaning about this? This is inshallah what we will do in our next class. So our next class is going to be a little bit delayed. I have a lot of things in July and stuff. So we'll be back in August. There's no class in July. There's some pre-commitments that I had. So we will be, I think it's and then it's going to be on every third Friday of the month. So we're locked it until the end of the year. So you guys can lock your calendars. It will be on every third Friday of the month. From August all the way till December, it's locked for every third Friday of the month, inshallah. So we'll start over there. But remember me, I don't have my pen, otherwise I would mark ayah number 47. So if you come, just remind me if you can, inshallah. Oh, recorded.